attorneys regularly deny valid claims because that's...
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz at Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Monday. Means we're brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. It's a Victory Monday. Had a W for the Saints and the Tigers over the weekend. We're talking about it from 1 to 3 here. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos and fired up to be here with you to start your work week. Hope it's off to a great start. If it's any indication of what the weekend was, it has been a good start to said work week. We're going to get to a couple guests later on in the show. Excited to have John Talty come on here in 30 minutes. He wrote earlier this week that there's a bit of a disconnect between Brian Kelly and LSU's football team. I'd like him to elaborate on some of that, so we'll talk to John Talty about that coming up here at the bottom of this hour. And then, as always, Denton Day with us at the bottom of hour number 2. Denton will talk all things college football with us here on the Hunt Palmer Show. So fired up that you're hanging out with us, and let's get off and running. I'm going to do something that I don't ever really do on Mondays, and that is lead with the Saints instead of LSU. Generally speaking, we go with LSU first, win or lose. Not today, because the New Orleans Saints have put on an absolute show for 2 weeks. And I gave you that kind of lame golf analogy last week talking about the Saints, and I said, look, if you make a birdie in this money golf game that I play from time to time, you've got to come back the next hole and make a par to collect your winnings. You've got to validate that birdie. So for the Saints, it's not necessarily they had to go beat Dallas, but you had to look the part again. Dallas is a good team. You're going on the road. They never lose there. So I wasn't saying if you don't beat Dallas, you're a fraud. That wasn't the point. But I needed to see the Saints show up and show more of what you saw against the Panthers. And there were probably some people after the Panthers game that said, the Panthers are just terrible. And there were probably some people after the game against the Panthers that said, man, the Saints look really, really good. Guess what? Both things can be true. Bryce Young got benched 10 minutes ago. He stinks. The Panthers are awful. Dallas, not awful. The Saints, not awful. Actually, really good. And hand up right here. As far as we know, through 2 weeks, and you got a lot of football in front of you, I've completely whiffed on New Orleans the entire fall. I guess that would be the summer. Either way. Training camp, all discussion points, I whiffed. I apologize for not suggesting that Alvin Kamara, whose productivity and his availability have diminished over the last 3 years. I apologize for not projecting him to return to form. I apologize for not suggesting that Derek Carr would play at a higher level than any quarterback in the NFL. I apologize for not projecting that the Saints, who continue to age on defense, would still be dominant. I apologize for not suggesting that Clint Kubiak could come in with basically the same class of characters that Pete Carmichael had and completely transform the Saint offense. I did not project any of those things to happen. And through 2 weeks, they have all happened. It has been a freaking clinic from start to finish. Some of these numbers are jaw-dropping. The Saints, 91 points, second most ever in the NFL through 2 weeks. The only team with more? The New Orleans Saints, 2009. That team, pretty good. 370 rushing yards in 2 games. That's the third most for the Saints ever through 2 games. They went down the field and got points on 15 for 15 of Derek Carr's opening season drives. That was said very poorly, but you get the point. 15 drives with Derek Carr in the first team offense, 15 points. It's amazing in the NFL. You can't do that in the NFL. That's what college teams do when they pay teams $1 million to show up and lose by 60. The Saints are doing it to NFL teams. I thought one drive perfectly encapsulated just how much Clint Kubiak has transformed this Saints offense. Coming out of the half, Dallas went down and got a field goal to cut the lead to 16. And you still felt like the Saints were very much in control of the ball game, but it's a two-possession game in Dallas. You got work to do to finish it off. And the Saints would then embark on a 13-play, 70-yard touchdown drive that pretty much put the whole thing on display. That drive included a pass in the flat to Alvin Kamara for 8 yards. That's how they started things, so getting Kamara involved in some space in the passing game. Then they ran Kamara traditionally, didn't get any yardage. It was 3rd and 2. They gave the ball to Taysom Hill in a running play. They've used him in a myriad of ways, and this is a running play that they got him, and he got the first down. They get it back to Kamara. He gets 3 yards. Carr throws a short pass to Chris Olave. They get a first down. Taysom Hill takes the next snap around right end. Then they got Rashid Shaheed in the backfield. They hand him the ball, and he gets 4 yards. Then they're down inside the 30. They run a great misdirection play. Carr's in the backfield. He hits Foster Moreau for a wide-open touchdown. Nobody in the vicinity of Foster Moreau. Another guy they're getting involved more so than he was last year. But it comes back because Cesar Ruiz drifted 8 inches too far down the field. No big deal. Penalty, that's fine. Get the ball to Kamara. He goes 10 yards. Get the ball to Kamara again. He goes 3 yards. Get the ball to Kamara again. He goes 14 yards. And they get a sack, but they put Shaheed back there in the backfield again, using a playmaker in a different way. He gets the ball goes 13 yards. They try to throw it to Taysom Hill. And then Kamara goes around left end for a touchdown. Now, that's a lot of plays, but the point is they hand it to Taysom Hill. They hand it to Shaheed. They got Olave involved. They threw it down the field on a misdirection play to Foster Moreau that they hadn't shown to that point in the game, and it was already the third quarter. They got Kamara on the edges. They got him involved in the passing game. They just did everything. All the while, they're using as much motion as anybody in the league, and they're the most productive offense in the NFL at this point. And this is all due to Clint Kubiak coming in and infusing new ideas and life into this Saints offense. And Derek Carr has taken to it brilliantly. They are running the ball far better than they did at any point last year. They are hitting their shot plays to Shaheed, something they did do at times last year. But that's a vital piece to this Saints offense to create big plays and to create points, and they've hit it back-to-back weeks early in the game. Kamara looks like he did 8 years ago. It's absolutely unbelievable. And it would be one thing if the Saints were doing this and the defense was just mediocre. The defense is playing unbelievable. They've created 5 different takeaways. They're forcing fumbles. They're getting pressure on quarterbacks. Tyrann Mathieu looks like he's hit the fountain of youth. I, myself, last year, came on the show. Said, I love Tyrann. Louisiana guy, LSU guy, Saints player. He's lost a step. Well, that may be true. He's an old player, relatively speaking, to his position in the league. He's in his 30s. But he's playing great. He's playing with instincts. And they had Dak Prescott in a bit of a blender in the second half of that game. They made it Cooper rush hour at the end because Dallas said, we're done. We'll put the backups in. 44-19, that's enough. This has been absolutely unbelievable to sit here and watch. I mean, there was no one that I heard or read, and I do a lot of that in July when we're trying to find content, that could have forecasted this. The only thing we knew is that the folks that went to practice, and we talked to a lot of them on this show, said you see one offense that they're running in practice, and they're not using that in the preseason, which is completely understandable. Why would you? And so we knew that whatever went on in the preseason wasn't all that significant. But you could not have forecasted 2 football games like that. And at this point, as I said Friday, if the Saints win, they're the favorite in the South. And I believe that to be true. Tampa's looked great. Big win for them yesterday. They hadn't looked this great. This is more than you could have imagined as a Saints fan. And we're here to inform. We're here to entertain. We've got a number of roles in this medium. I can't take a ton of blame for not being able to inform you that this was coming. I just can't. I can't take a lot of heat there. This has been incredible. And in the course of 7 days, the New Orleans Saints have gone from, in my opinion, this is just my opinion personally, not necessarily yours, certainly not yours as a Saints fan, in my opinion, one of the most boring teams in the NFL in terms of the state of the franchise, to a contender in the NFC. That's my opinion, but I would stick to that. I never said they were the worst team in the NFL. Far from it. I said boring. You've got an old quarterback. You've got a coach who hadn't had a ton of success. You've got an aging roster, and you kind of look like a 500 team. That's pretty boring. And right now, they do not look like a 500 team. Now, they got a long way to go. And there will be a time for us to have the discussion of, okay, what happens now that there's 2 games on tape and defenses are going to be able to try to counteract what the Saints are doing. That discussion is coming. It's not coming today. There's no point in having that discussion today. Today, the discussion is, oh my word, these guys look awesome. That is the discussion today. I'm shocked, y'all. Absolutely shocked. I was not shocked they crushed the Panthers. I was impressed. I was not shocked. I'm shocked they went to Dallas and won by 25 points and toyed with that team. Shocked. But hey, makes things really exciting the rest of the way. Now the Saints will welcome in Philly to the Dome, and we'll see how long they can keep this rolling.
They didn't go birdie par hunt. They went birdie eagle.
They went birdie eagle. Like, that's exactly right. I got that text yesterday. They more than validated it. They doubled down on it and they cashed back in. Like that, I mean, just remarkable to watch that team on both sides of the football for 2 weeks now. It's just, you just don't see that in the NFL. You don't see teams just absolutely blow people out week after week in the NFL. But you've certainly seen the Saints do it. It's been very, very cool to watch. If you want to read some content about the Saints, Ross Jackson's got some incredible stuff up at LouisianaSports.net. Fired up for the coverage that he's been giving us over there. If you want to check it out, it's all free, LouisianaSports.net. All right, when we come back, let's talk Tigers and Gamecocks. The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years of redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. They can do a full-scale renovation or remodel. Maybe you locked in a great interest rate at your home just a couple of years ago when things were in the high 2s, low 3s, and you're not looking to jump into the 6s right quick and move. But you would like an upgrade. Well, you can do it in your home with One Bath and Closets. Spend a lot of time in the bathroom. What if it was completely remodeled and redone? All the way, floor, shower, tub, everything. They can handle it. It'll be the only call you make. One Bath and Closets. You don't have to call 3 different contractors to get 3 different things done. It's just David Duvall and his team at One Bath and Closets. They don't have to do full-scale renovation remodel either. Maybe something simple like a tub-to-shower conversion. Can always help you on the closet side as well. David Duvall, 30 years in the business at One Bath and Closets. Go to onebathandclosets.com. Check out that free consultation link. Go ahead and look at the awesome testimonials from their satisfied customers. And start that process today. It's One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Parrish Construction and Roofing. At Parrish, we've got you covered. From the top of your roof, all the way down. Parrish Construction and Roofing. Parrish built. Parrish built. Parrish built. From your hometown, parrishbuilt.com.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps are held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Shout out to Trey Beal and the folks at Gulf Coast Office Products. Baton Rouge Business Report, #1 office products dealer. Fantastic customer service. Tons of resources. Anywhere in the state of Louisiana, your printing, scanning, copying needs, the folks at Gulf Coast Office Products are right here for you and happy to help. We're going to get to John Talty coming up in 15 minutes. He wrote in his post-game story between LSU and South Carolina that they're, according to sources with familiarity to the situation, there's a disconnect apparently between Brian Kelly and the LSU team. That was kind of news to me. I'd like to hear more about it, so we'll have John Talty come on in 12 minutes to do just that. There are a lot of layers to LSU's 36-33 win over South Carolina, a lot of layers. And I struggled a little bit with the post-game show coming just 30 minutes after kickoff, after the game went final, to unpack that properly, I think. I mean, it's raw, it's emotional, that's the way post-game shows go, and there are times where my post-game show on Saturday is a little bit different than my Monday show. And I think that is still the case with this one. You could certainly approach things the way I did in my post-game column for LouisianaSports.net, where you say, look, this is a team that went down 17-0 on the road in a sold-out stadium. That place was going nuts. And they found a way to claw back into that football game. They found a way to run the ball. The defense made some plays to force some turnovers, and they got a gritty, tough win on the road. Like all that's true, and I think pretty important. And you can also approach it as, well, there's no real proof that South Carolina is any good, and a championship-level program shouldn't go down 17-0 on the road and shouldn't have to fight and scrap and claw to beat one of the teams that's probably going to finish in the bottom third of the SEC. And I don't know that that's completely misguided either. I think both of those are reasonable approaches to that game, and I quite honestly probably fall somewhere in the middle But where I find myself ultimately is I didn't really think that LSU was a championship contender this year. I thought there was a chance they could make the playoffs, but I didn't consider this roster to be on par with the great championship rosters that we've seen here in Baton Rouge over the last 20 years. And for that reason, I probably lean towards, hey, it's a flawed team, but they found a way to go get a win on the road. I don't besmirch you for being on the other side of that and saying, well, why aren't they any better? It's year 3 under Brian Kelly. Why can't they just go take care of their business against South Carolina and not fall in a hole and not give up massive running plays week in and week out and not need the breaks that they ultimately got in the game to get to the finish line against South Carolina? That's not the wrong place to be. I just am not quite there because I think this roster is, as we said, flawed. And I think there are issues that are going to take some more time in recruiting, quite honestly, to clean up. And that may be disappointing to a lot of people, myself maybe included in that. But in reality, like, this is the team they got. And they just needed to go find a way to get the win. And it looked like there was no chance of that early on when they went down 17-0 and they can't get a first down. And South Carolina's going right down the field. I mean, their first drive was 7 plays right down the field. 4 of the 7 plays went for more than 10 yards, and 1 of the 3 that didn't go for more than 10 yards was a 4-yard touchdown. I mean, they went right down the field on LSU. And you got to give it back, and they're blocking punts. And I mean, it was a disaster. It looked like they were going to get run out of the stadium. And they found a way to buckle down and win, and I think that's important. Now, the breaks I'm mentioning that they got, you don't often have 2 pick sixes called back. Now, the first one was a horse collar. They absolutely did horse collar Nussmeier. Here's where I'm going to differ from what I said in the postgame on Saturday, if you listened, to right now. I've changed my mind over the course of 2 days, which happens every once in a while. I called the personal foul on Kyle Kennard for unnecessary roughness against Garrett Nussmeier that took the pick 6 off the board in the second half. I called that a selfish play on the postgame. I said it was a play that wasn't concerned with winning and was more so concerned with taking a shot at the quarterback, and said that was maybe the biggest play in the game and it was completely unnecessary by the South Carolina defender. That's what I said on the postgame afterward. As I sit here today, having rewatched it, and keep in mind I was in a sports book with a lot going on and didn't necessarily take as much time as I needed to ingest that play entirely. I was able to do that on Sunday and watch it a couple different times. It wasn't a necessary play for Kennard to make. He didn't need to throw a block because Nussmeier was not going to make the play. But it didn't feel like it was malicious. It didn't feel like it was trying to hurt the quarterback. He shoved him really hard in the chest. And they try to protect the quarterback. I understand that. Nussmeier hit the deck really hard and kind of laid there a little bit. I don't know, having watched it again, that I think that was worthy of pulling 6 points off the board. But hey, you'll take it. And LSU got the break there. Sometimes you get breaks, sometimes you don't. They got that break, and they needed it because it was going to be a 2-score game if that play stood. But there was some really good stuff, I thought, in the game. I mean, obviously, the easiest highlight to point out in this game was Caden Durham and his emergence. And that's pretty surprising in Game 3 in the first road game. That's a spot where I would assume that they would lean on Josh Williams and then Caleb Jackson, some older players. But instead, they got Durham involved, and he produced 11 carries, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns, had a 26-yard touchdown that was really impressive. I think of Durham as a speed guy. I think of him as a track guy. I knew that he had a low center of gravity and that he was sturdy. I knew that he wasn't too small, but I didn't necessarily see him breaking that many tackles this early in his career. I knew the speed, the burst, but the balance and the body control and the ability to make guys miss, I was really impressed by, and I think you're going to see more of him in the game on Saturday. When they got his commitment and ultimately got his signature, and I looked at Caleb Jackson, and I looked at those 2 guys with Harlan Berry on the way, and I was like, this is what LSU's running back assembly line generally looks like. Like, there was a 20-year run there where there was just NFL guy after NFL guy after NFL guy. And it felt like that got a little bit chopped up over the last 5-6 years. And now I think you're starting to see it again. And I think Caden Durham's going to be awesome. I was thrilled by what you saw from him in the game. The other one on the defensive side was obviously Braden Swenson. He was phenomenal in the pass rush game. He was back there for 3 sacks. And he was just very, very present the entirety of the second half. And when you are able to go out there and impose your will and assert yourself to get 3 tackles in the backfield and force a fumble and get the opposing starting quarterback out of the game, like that's a really impactful day for him. And I do think LSU's got some guys that can rush the passer. We know Perkins can rush the passer. We know that Swenson now can rush the passer. We've seen Whit Weeks really good in his pass rush situations at times. I think Savion Jones looked good rushing the passer against USC, Southern Cal. They've got some guys that can do that, and that ultimately was big in this game because you got to Sellers and you knocked him out of the game, which was another break, but you kind of created that one. And then once Ashford came in and was trying to throw the ball, like they didn't trust him, and you really made things tough on them. And LSU did create a significant amount of havoc in this game. They forced 9 tackles in the backfield, 5 sacks. You got to Sellers and knocked the ball free and got a turnover out of that. Like, they're not going to be a great defense. They're just not. They don't, in my estimation, have the talent level that produces those great LSU defenses we've seen in the past. And that is partially on Brian Kelly and the staff that he has assembled through 3 years. But they're going to have to create some negative plays. If that means sending Sage Bryant on a blitz to create a fumble, you got to do it. If that means getting Harold Perkins involved in the pass rush 85-90% of what he's doing, you got to do it. You've got to create some negative plays, and they did that in this game. It's still pathetic to give up 2 65-plus yard touchdown runs, untouched. Sellers and Sanders, untouched, 65-plus yards. That's pathetic. But they did do some good things to create turnovers and to get some stops that ultimately got them to the finish line in the game. I want to talk about decisions to go for 2. I want to talk about decisions on the coin toss. I want to talk about decisions on 4th downs, punt blocks, Nussmeier's play, which he made some significant mistakes, but he also made some incredibly good throws as well. I want to talk about all that. Aaron Anderson's impact on the game. There's lots and lots still to chew on with this game, and we will certainly do that. But as I've mentioned twice now in the first 30 minutes of the show, I'm curious to hear what John Talty has to say coming up in our next segment to tease it and kind of set the stage for you. He wrote a piece after the game, and in the middle of the piece said that according to sources familiar with LSU, there's a disconnect between Brian Kelly and the players at LSU. His message is not resonating like it did at Notre Dame. And I had not heard anyone previously write that or say that, so I'm curious what John Talty has to say about that. So we'll get him to come on, talk about LSU in South Carolina, talk about Brian Kelly and what he had to write. That's coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Love telling you about LeBear's Baton Rouge. You got to make LeBear's your game day headquarters this season, all season long. We've been out there the last couple of weeks at ESPN Bet on Thursday nights. The screens are huge. The food is fantastic. And you can watch and wager right there in ESPN Bet at LeBear's. Plus, Cover 5, the SEC contest, is going on all season long. I was atrocious this past week. I lost 4 of my 5 picks. I backed up significantly in the standings. That's good news for you because you can pass me up pretty quickly if you play. You got to download the app. It's the Cover 5 app. You got to enter the code LABRSEC24 and pick 5 SEC games that week. You get points based on your pick in relation to the point spread and the final score. You can play against your friends, me, win season-long prizes as well. If you're not a member, get the Penn Play app today. LeBear's Baton Rouge, your live sports headquarters. Got to be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-589-9966 for help.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Parish Construction and Roofing.
This is Coach Kim Mulkey. Go to parishbuilt.com for all of your roofing needs.
Parish Built from your hometown. Parishbuilt.com.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has back-to-school savings like $16,000 off 25 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $16,000 off. All new Bayou vehicles come with a complimentary extended warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Back in action here on this Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Looking to link up with John Talty of CBS Sports. Becky did just text me, so I think he's gonna give us a call here shortly. Want to talk to him about his piece up at CBS Sports right now, talking about the disconnect apparently between Brian Kelly and his program here at LSU. Also got more Saints to get to. My SEC picks against the spread. We'll go through some storylines in the Southeastern Conference. No official word from Gainesville, but it feels like things are not moving in the right direction for Billy Napier. I think we saw likely the end of the line for him with that embarrassing loss that they had. But we'll get to all that at the top of hour number 2, coming up at 2:00. A couple of things that I wanted to talk about with Brian Kelly decision making on Saturday. I did not expect LSU to defer after they won the toss. That was a very welcome surprise. Generally speaking, that has not been LSU's MO. Brian Kelly believes in taking the football, going right down the field, and says if you take the football and go down the field and score first, your chances of winning go up exponentially, analytically speaking. That's all well and good. I just want the ball to start the second half because that to me, it gives you the ability to set the tone in the second half. If you're down, you can trim into that lead. If you're up, you can build the lead. I want the ball to start the second half, and LSU did that, which I thought was great. As far as the fourth and goal to go situations that we continue to see LSU coming up short on, and it takes points off the scoreboard. I don't like these decisions to continue to try to go for it. We saw it against Florida State last year. We saw it against USC this year. We saw it again against South Carolina. LSU is a bad tight zone team. They're a bad short yardage team. And putting so much emphasis on that part of the game, to me, is not good business, and they've paid for it dearly in a couple of these games early on. So we'll see if they either, one, improve upon that, or two, decide they're going to do things a little bit differently and maybe take the points. But we'll see. John Talty, college football writer for CBS Sports, joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. John, thanks so much for the time. How are you?
Good. Appreciate you having me on.
It is our pleasure. You wrote a piece, Something's Not Adding Up at LSU, and a lot of it was about the game on Saturday, and then some of it was about some of the deeper issues that may be in Baton Rouge. First of all, we'll start with the game. What did you see in LSU's razor-thin three-point win in Columbia against South Carolina?
I think they're very lucky to escape with a win, to be quite honest. I think that what Brian Kelly said after the game, I pretty much predicted word for word as I watched it. I knew he was going to talk about the perseverance of the team and how it's hard to win on the road in the SEC, and all those things are true. And it was clearly an incredible environment in South Carolina, and finding a way to escape with a win is important, and there's definitely ways to build off of it. But I didn't feel like they were the better team in that game. I felt like they benefited from, quite a few either mishaps late by South Carolina, or I thought, questionable officiating calls. They had 2 pick sixes that didn't end up happening because of calls, especially the last one I thought was pretty questionable. So I thought they were very lucky to survive. And, you would hope that if you're LSU, that this is going to be used as a wake-up call, that, yeah, you're 2-1, but you really should be 1-2. And there's some pretty tough games ahead. But we'll see. I didn't think that there was outside of the final result, there were not a lot of things that I saw that made me super optimistic about the rest of their season, unless they can make some real changes and start figuring some things out sooner than later.
Why do you think that's the situation 2.5 years into Brian Kelly's tenure in Baton Rouge?
Well, I think staffing has been a big part of it. I think that, when you're constantly churning over your staff, I think that can be difficult to build momentum, to build consistency. The fact that he had to overhaul that defensive staff as quickly as he did is never typically a great sign. I think people around the program, he's done a really good job for this cycle leading into signing day in December. But I think in the past there's been some questions about whether he's recruiting at a high enough level. And then some people that I've talked to just think that there's a disconnect. They think that there's a disconnect between Brian Kelly and his style of coaching with this current team, that there just seems to be something off about it, that some of these guys are maybe not fully bought into what he's selling. That's what I've heard from multiple people kind of familiar with the situation. So, there's a couple of different ways of looking at it, but, you can just see, even with just the eye test, that this is not a team meeting its expectations for this season, and that there need to be things that are fixed. And, I do go to the defense and think that they spent a lot of money on overhauling that defensive staff, and watching them against South Carolina, to me, did not feel like it has taken a major step forward to this point.
Yeah, you wrote exactly what you just relayed there in your story at CBSSports.com. Said multiple industry sources familiar with LSU told CBS Sports on Saturday they believe the on-field issues are a result of a disconnect between Kelly and his LSU players, with his personality and style not resonating as well in Baton Rouge as it did in South Bend. Is this a guy from the Midwest who lived in the Northeast, grew up in the Northeast in South Louisiana? Is this a new era of transfer portal and NIL players? What's the deeper issue there that you think?
Yeah, I think it's all the above. I think that those things all factor in. I think that, people question the fit from day one. But there was another guy who came from the Midwest who ended up being pretty successful named Nick Saban. So I think people were willing to give him some of the benefit of the doubt. But, Notre Dame's a very unique institution, and LSU is a very unique institution as well in different ways. And so he was going to have to evolve and adapt for what he did to be successful at Notre Dame to work at LSU. Some of the people I've talked to don't think he has done enough of that, whether it's, the awkward kind of start with the accent to just where he's at now. They just don't feel like he's adapted to his surroundings as well as he could have. And I think that's part of one of the reasons why they're in the place that they're in. And it's been interesting to, there's different coaches that you get these reactions, but, from talking to different people around college football, especially during that game on Saturday, just texting people that you currently work in the sport or tangentially related to the sport. And there's just not a lot of love for Brian Kelly. I don't know if it's his personality, the way he's rubbed people the wrong way, whatever it might be, but there are quite a few people that I would say are rooting for his downfall and just don't think that he is going to be able to turn it around at LSU. And so certainly something that bears watching moving forward as to whether, he can get this thing up to a level that we all expected it to be when they brought him in at a very high number and convinced him to leave Notre Dame for LSU.
I think the fear in Baton Rouge when you hire a coach that was Brian Kelly's age 3 years ago and you give him $100 million and a golden parachute there, that potentially you could see somebody lose a little bit of their edge and motivation. When speaking with people, do you believe that could be the case?
People have brought that up to me. Now, again, you're probably closer to the situation than I am. Like, I'm not there every day, obviously. So I couldn't clock it quite accurately. People have told me that, he's not necessarily always in the office and, that he might take more days off than some of his predecessors and Ed Ogeron, Les Miles, and Nick Saban did. So that's just what someone has told me. I can't identify that with my own eyes. But I do think that's always a question. And I think we saw it play out with Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M, the guy who, LSU tried to hire. He didn't leave, and they ultimately got Brian Kelly instead. But I do think people around that situation told me that they felt like, at one point, he's just kind of collecting a check. And it takes a really, I think, special person to keep up their level of motivation when you're getting paid an insane amount of money, whether you're good or bad. Guys like Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, they're psychos in the best way in terms of their motivation's never going to drop just because of how much money they make. But I think it impacts a lot of people. And, that's what you're seeing, whether it's maybe at LSU, we're going to see a change in Florida here pretty soon. But like when that you're getting, 8-9 figures, if you win or lose, then, that can impact your motivation level. And I do think there are some people that think that maybe he's just not putting in the level of work that they were accustomed to with guys like Saban, Miles, and Ogeron, who were all extremely hardworking individuals.
We're chatting with John Talty. You can find him on Twitter at JTalty, talking LSU and Brian Kelly. What does your magic ball say about what Brian Kelly's tenure at LSU will ultimately be?
I mean, he's got to figure some things out. I think it's already been kind of discussed ad nauseum, but I think looking back at last year and the offense that they had is going to feel like a really big what if he had maybe put together the right defensive staff from the beginning, or maybe made a move after year one. I mean, I'm watching the NFL yesterday and seeing, what Jaden and Malik and others are doing already as rookies. You just look back and think, man, how did that team not win the West? It was such a wide open West last year, and I didn't think Alabama was, nearly as strong as it's been in the past. So that to me is going to be the one that feels like it got away, and I just don't know if he's going to have a better opportunity than he had, last year. Given Texas is at a very high level, Tennessee is rolling right now, Bama, Georgia, Ole Miss. There's just a lot of programs that have elevated themselves up, I think, in the NIL era. That's made that path a little harder for LSU and for teams in general. And I just don't know that Brian Kelly is going to be able to figure it out. So if you put the expectation standard of national championship or bust, which we all know that the last three coaches have been able to do, I don't see that in my crystal ball right now for Brian Kelly. Certainly some big changes would have to pan out, and some of the highly regarded guys that they have currently committed to the class of 2025 would have to come in and make an impact, a big impact, pretty early on for that to even be remotely a possibility for where things stand right now for me.
He's John Talty, National College Sports Reporter, CBSSports.com. Got a piece up at CBSSports.com right now. What's the disconnect at LSU? We appreciate some time, man. Have a great week.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Follow him on Twitter at JTalty. I've got some thoughts on that, so we'll close out the hour with some of my reaction to what John had to say there. Coming up next on The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. EvolvePT.com is the website. Robbie Bolton, his team, fantastic folks. I may be headed over there in pretty short order because I tried to play golf yesterday and I couldn't because my wrist just not going to allow it. So I was trying to let it heal over time. It's been about a week and a half. We may be headed over to Evolve and try to get things figured out because I got to get back on the golf course. If you're trying to get back out on the golf course or back out to lifting weights or back out to running or youth sport and you want to get back out on the field, Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports needs to be your first call, your first stop. They're on Starring right near Highland Road, and they're hands-on the entire time that you're there. You're not going to be given a little sheet of printed out exercises to do. See you next week. All right, hope it feels better. They're going to be with you, intently working with you to make sure you can get back to being your active self. Robbie's been at this for 2 decades. He's had professional athletes, collegiate athletes, high school athletes, but you don't have to be on a team to go in there to Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. If you're just an active person and you're trying to get back to being your active self, check them out at Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. EvolvePT.com, EvolvePT.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has back-to-school savings like $16,000 off 25 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $16,000 off. All new Bayou vehicles come with a complimentary extended warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
All right, thanks so much to John Talty for coming aboard. Appears he kicked a bit of an ant bud here as I look at the Bayou Ford chat. Differing opinions are good on radio. I wanted John to come on and say his piece, say what he had been hearing, and I thought it was thought-provoking. I don't necessarily agree with everything he had to say, but certainly I don't know what type of discussions he's had or who he's speaking with. So John's had a really good run, really good career. He's a best-selling author, and he does a great job covering college football for CBS. He certainly knows more people on a national level than I do. I'm here on Government Street in Baton Rouge. I think it's I think it's very fair to suggest there are people in the college football ecosystem that don't have a ton of love for Brian Kelly. I don't think that's news to anyone. I also don't think, and I didn't like Brian Kelly was at Notre Dame because I don't like Notre Dame. So he was a Notre Dame coach and he was red faced and yelling and screaming a lot, and I didn't like him because he's on that team. Comes to my team, change things up a little bit, and I think that you've seen Brian Kelly mellow a little bit in terms of his interaction with the media, in terms of his interaction with people day to day. Like he just seems like a guy that's a little more relaxed than he was at South Bend. Now, that may mean that he's just more comfortable and he's just mellowing with age. It may mean that he's mellowing professionally. I don't know anything about that. Like I tossed that out there because I was trying to see kind of where he was coming from with that. I think LSU's recruiting at an exceptional rate. I think there's real reason for optimism in the future of the program because Brian Kelly always has good football teams, because LSU has what everyone believes to be a really, really good staff and an exceptional signing class that's committed right now that's set to sign here in 3 months. But I think there are also some people that are a little surprised that 2.5 years into Brian Kelly's tenure, LSU's defense is not any good. And that is concerning. So I think where I stand on this whole thing is I don't know that there's some sort of disconnect. I don't buy the fit thing. That can work. That can matter in some places. But as I've heard Matt Moscona and Charles Handegriff say multiple times, and it's very obvious, like look at some of the greatest coaches in the history of LSU. Dale Brown was from the upper Midwest and came down here and built a power. Skip Bertman is from South Florida and is a Jewish man coming into Catholic country in South Louisiana, and he built the greatest baseball program anyone's ever seen. Nick Saban fit in just fine here, and he's never worked in the South. Like, so I don't care about where you went to high school or where your last job was, as long as you can coach. And Brian Kelly can coach, and LSU has put a reasonable product on the field his first 2.5 years. It's not a championship level product, and that's what he's here to do. I don't care if LSU signed into a $100 million deal or an $8 million deal. The standard is the standard at LSU. You should compete for championships. And LSU did win the West one year, but hasn't really been a threat to compete on the national stage. And that's what people are waiting for in Baton Rouge. And it feels like if you're losing to Southern Cal and on the ropes at South Carolina, that you're probably not right there. It feels like if you looked at last year's defense and what it was, and then you look at this year's defense and you see the big plays continue to roll up, that you don't feel like a championship program. But I'm certainly not ready to throw dirt on the Brian Kelly era. Not in any way, shape, or form. I think there's real reason for optimism moving forward. I think this year's going to get a little bumpy at times because the defense that I'm watching is going to have a real hard time against Ole Miss and a real hard time against Alabama and potentially a real hard time against Oklahoma. But I think LSU's offense is really good, and I think their defense can get better. And I think this defense will get better over time as that recruiting staff that's so good keeps restocking the shelves. And I also think there's a real reasonable chance that Frank Wilson is here for a while. There's a real reason that Bo Davis is here for a while, that Corey Raymond is here for a while. I don't know that I see those guys making a quick jump somewhere else. They've been position coaches their entire careers. Their roots are here in South Louisiana. I don't know that the next head job is going to be coming really quickly for them. I don't know that the next coordinator job is going to be coming really quickly. You could convince me that LSU's two coordinators who are young and ascending in their careers may not be here in a year, 2 years, 3 years. You could convince me of that, but we don't know, and that happens everywhere. You just hire the next guy. But I think I don't know anything about a disconnect. I wanted to have John on because I had not heard anyone say that before, and he's saying that multiple industry sources are telling him that. I wanted him to say his piece, and I differ with him a little bit, but certainly there are critiques you can make of this LSU football program through 2.5 years of Brian Kelly's time, and I think it's probably reasonable also to say that there are people in the industry that don't want Brian Kelly to succeed. I don't care about those people, and they don't matter in the grand scheme of things. That's because Brian Kelly hears that somebody wants him to fail doesn't mean he's going to go shut his door and pout. But I believe him I believe John Talty when he says that hey, there's some people that aren't wild about Brian Kelly. That's fine. Doesn't matter. It just matters whether or not he wins. And right now, LSU's team doesn't appear to be championship quality, and we'll see if that changes this year or moving forward. Interesting stuff. You can read his piece up there at cbssports.com. That was an old school Jefferson Pilot game. Yeah, that is actually true. It's the same time slot and the same wacky, wild craziness that generally happen in those JP games. You saw a lot of that. That was a crazy game on Saturday. Absolutely nuts. Block punts, fourth down stops, goal line stand, missed field goal at the end.
Pick sixes called back.
Strip sacks. I mean, 60-yard touchdown runs untouched. I mean, it was nuts. It had everything. I write for LouisianaSports.net. I write a piece at the end of the game. It's not really a traditional game story. It's got kind of the story of the game in short form. It's got big plays. It's got a stat or two, and then some quotes. And I usually have like 5 or 6 big plays. That's what we had basically in the first 2 games. There were like 13 or 14 because they were just massive emotional swings throughout that game on Saturday. But LSU did find a way to win it. And if you listen to my recap at the second segment of the hour, that I think is the biggest story that they won it. There are plenty of other stories, and we have gotten to a lot of them, but the biggest story is that LSU won the game, and now you got 2 games that you should win, and we'll see what they can do after a bye against Ole Miss. That's it for hour number 1 here. We're brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound, you can find the Hunt Palmer Show. We'll start off hour number 2 with my SEC picks against the number, plus I got to talk to Beck about something. We'll do that next.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Parish Construction and Roofing.
Hello, Kim Mulkey here. When I have construction and roofing needs, I call my friend Ryan Terrio and the Parish Construction and Roofing team. I sleep good at night because I know the Parish team has my back. Go to parishbuilt.com for all of your roofing needs. And remember, always do business with someone you know.
Parish Built from your hometown. parishbuilt.com.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com. Oh, by the way, we do shutters too.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. The Panthers benching quarterback Bryce Young and replacing him with Andy Dalton Sunday against the Raiders. Young, the top overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions in 2 starts this season, is 2-16 as the starter in Carolina. There are 2 things that can come from the Panthers QB switch, says ESPN's Marcus Spears.
Bryce Young can benefit from being on the sideline and going through the day-to-day and watching a veteran prepare to play in games and making sure he's understanding how you go about not only the game day, but the week in preparation. And then the other thing is, if his confidence is shot, now you got Carolina in a situation where they have to decide what to do with a guy that they just took first overall 2 years ago.
Chiefs running back Isaiah Pacheco expected to land on injured reserve with a fibula injury, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. He's undergoing an MRI today. Jets edge rusher Jermaine Johnson confirmed he's out the rest of the season with a torn Achilles. Michigan making a change ahead of the Big Ten opener. Alex Orji replaces Davis Warren at quarterback against USC Saturday.
Why pay more for a great shave? Choose Barbasol, America's #1 brand of shaving cream. Barbasol's thick and rich lather gives you a close, comfortable shave for just half the price of gels. Barbasol.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Gulf Coast Office Products. Denton Day coming up in 30 minutes, talking about the college football national picture as we are through week 3 in CFB. Lots of action in the Southeastern Conference over the weekend. Of course, every single Friday I pick all the games against the number. We had a 500 week this week, back a 6-6.
Yeah, you did.
Number.
It wasn't bad.
It's not bad. It's not good enough. We've got to get it dialed up. We've got to be better, and we will be better.
Yes.
I got home with Ole Miss covering the 20.5 against Wake. Got home with Texas laying 35 against UTSA, even without Quinn Ewers. I took Georgia State back.
Yeah, you did.
And they did cover the 10 points against Vandy.
They did.
What do you have to say for your Doors?
I am downtrodden, Hunt. It was just an absolutely horrible effort by Vanderbilt. Turner Field was rocking, Hunt. You should have seen it. The scenes were incredible there. For
They
Georgia
scored
State.
22 points in the fourth quarter.
They did. In fact, they had
Vanderbilt
the lead.
did. Yeah.
Vanderbilt had the lead with like a minute or 2 left, and they let
Did they
Georgia
hold
State.
that?
No, they didn't. They
The
did
Panther
not.
offense right down
Right
the
down their
field,
throats.
baby.
Yep.
Wow, it's a tough scene.
It is.
Oh,
Very
man.
tough.
I hated to see that for
No,
your
you didn't.
for your
You enjoyed it.
Vanderbilt
You
Commodores.
did not hate it.
I didn't even see it. I just got it texted to me.
Yeah.
Let's see what missed on Georgia, Kentucky, missed on New Mexico, Auburn, missed on Toledo, Mississippi State, which we have to talk about. And then I had my lock of the century.
You did.
Lock of the century, the Vols, minus 45. I said I would lay 60. If I had laid 60, I almost would have covered at halftime.
Almost.
Got home with Bama. Got home with Boston College plus 15.5. Did not get home with Tulane. Did not get home with Florida. Got to talk about that. And did not get home with the Arkansas Razorbacks against UAB. But let's talk about storylines from Saturday. I think probably where we have to start is Florida and Texas A&M. That just is it was just pathetic. I mean, you're talking about a 30-point lead that A&M mounted on Florida in the second half. Everybody went home. They're juggling quarterbacks left and right, and it's over for Billy Napier at Florida. I don't know if it's today. I don't know if it's tomorrow. I don't know if they wait until the bye week. But that curtain has come down because the product that he has put out there is absolutely unacceptable. Florida cannot block anybody. Florida cannot stop the run. Texas A&M just straight up lined up and beat the tar out of them for 4 quarters in the swamp, in the game that Billy Napier had to have. They've tried to push the DJ Lagway button. That ain't working. They're trying to go back to Graham Mertz here and there. That ain't working. Their best pass rusher now plays for Ole Miss. Their best running back now plays for Georgia. Like, it's just over. And I'm stunned personally that it went this badly. I could see a scenario where Billy Napier is fired from Florida when he was hired. He had never proven he could do it at this level. But he had checked a lot of boxes there. He had been a play caller. He had been a head coach. He had sustained success at Louisiana Lafayette. I always wonder if sometimes like a coach in college basketball gets one group together and they go and they win 2 tournament games at a smaller school, and based off that 1 year, boom, you get the gig, the big gig. That's not what Billy Napier did. He built Louisiana Lafayette and sustained it. He had multiple classes cycle through and they never really dipped, and I thought that was a really good sign for what he could do at Florida. And it's just a disaster. Now, Florida may be a disaster internally. Their NIL program, the facilities, what the athletic program's doing, like that may be an issue as well. But Billy Napier is not going to survive here. And we'll see what Florida ends up doing beyond this. But that was the end of the line for Sunbelt Billy there in Gainesville. It was an annihilation by Texas A&M with a backup quarterback, mind you, down there in the swamp. He did. He played well. Looked very good.
Not that you can maybe take too much away from the fact that they were playing Florida, who appears to be very
they're
very
awful.
bad.
But I mean, it was good. I mean, I'm not ready to
in a hostile environment. You know,
sure. I'm not ready to proclaim Mike Elko the guy who saved A&M, but I mean, I thought they looked impressive, and I think they looked pretty feckless against Notre Dame offensively, but they were much better in this game. Speaking of no offense. Georgia and Kentucky, just a slobber knocker of a football game, and shout out to the Kentucky Wildcats for stopping the run against Georgia the way that they did. And they did a great job defensively of not allowing Georgia to really sustain anything on offense. I mean, Georgia tried to run the ball. They ran it 30 times. But they only ran it for 3.4 yards per carry and weren't able to kind of bust one. Etienne had one 18-yard run, but that was it. Kentucky did a really good job of stopping the run, and Carson Beck wasn't able to hurt the Wildcats down the field. This game, the analysis of this game, in my estimation, comes down to one thing, and that is Mark Stoops punting the football on 4th and 8 in plus territory. I realize that your percent chance of getting a 4th and 8 against Georgia when you're not a great passing team, Brock Vandagriff went 14 of 27 for 114 yards, so it's not like he's lighting it up, and it's his first year as a starting quarterback in college football. But you got a better chance of converting a 4th and 8 on one play than you do of punting the ball back to Georgia, getting the stops, having Georgia punt you back the ball, now with no timeouts trying to sprint down the field and get more points. Field position plays to your advantage there, but there are too many things that have to go right as opposed to get 8 yards. Like, that's all you had to do to continue that drive. You cannot, in that spot, punt the football. Mark Stoops is a conservative guy. Mark Stoops is a defensive guy, and his defense played great against Georgia in this game. But you can't, if it's 4th and 18, I'll hear an argument. 4th and 8, we got to dial up a play and complete a pass. When you have the number 1 team in the country on the ropes, especially after what happened last week in your building when South Carolina emasculated you, you gotta trust your guys to go out there and make a play. And to not do that, I thought was just pitiful. And he'll regret that one, I'm assuming, for a long time. He won't say that, but I think he certainly will. Alabama went up to Camp Randall and just whitewashed Wisconsin. I realize that Tyler Van Dyke went down, and that's a big deal for the Badgers, but Alabama was just too big, too fast, too strong. And I really like the way that Alabama got Jalen Milroe working on the ground in this game. He goes for for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game. He accounted for 5 touchdowns. Alabama, like I said, just too big, too fast, too strong for Wisconsin, who's not going to be at that level. It's a good environment, while it's still a good environment, but Alabama's a championship level program and Wisconsin's not, and that was pretty evident in that one. Do we want to talk about Tennessee next?
I don't know. I mean,
Kent State's abysmal, and that's why I said in the game that I would lay 60, and they won 71-0. I mean, they scored 37 points in the first quarter and backed that up with 28 more. That is, they scored 65 points. Sorry, in the first half of the game.
For some reason, Kent State, I saw on Twitter, Tennessee offered Kent State, hey, we can shorten the second half or have a running clock, and Kent State, for some reason, didn't accept that offer, but Tennessee did obviously take it easy in the second half. They only scored 6 points, but still, man, that Tennessee offense is a wagon.
And their defense is good. Like, I don't care about Kent State necessarily because Kent State lost to a team I never heard of the week prior.
St. Francis?
Yeah, sweet. But they held NC State to 10. They held Chattanooga to 3. I mean, we've seen LSU go out there against Nichols and give up 22. So I feel like they've improved. I'm not here to tell you that Tennessee's defense is the 85 Bears, but, like, are you definitely sure that Texas is better than Tennessee?
Yeah. Oh, no. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that at all, but I do think this will be a really tough test for them coming up, going to Norman, taking on Oklahoma. However, at the same time, Oklahoma hasn't looked great so far through 3 games.
They did enough against Tulane. Obviously, the pick 6 had you thinking, oh my God, Tulane might be able to win this game.
The Houston game was a sleeper. The first game was that I think that was I don't remember who they played, but it wasn't anything Temple, so that doesn't really count
that
for
doesn't
much.
help. But I thought Jackson Arnold looked athletic.
He looks he does.
He's had 97 yards rushing in the game and a pair of scores on the ground. So fine win for Oklahoma. Their test comes this week with Tennessee.
Yeah.
That's the whole storyline around them. And the other one that I definitely wanted to get to before we move on. I don't think anybody really paid attention to this. It was long after LSU was done, and it's not a matchup that you're going to seek out on television. Toledo annihilated Mississippi State. 41-17 was the final, and it was never competitive. That game was 28-3 at halftime. And Mississippi State in back-to-back weeks now has allowed Arizona State to run for 350 yards and then Toledo to go up and down the field at Davis Wade. And I have some troubling news for Mississippi State fans because it is evident at the line of scrimmage, especially on defense, that Mississippi State has nobody. And they don't really have a line of defense. So what is coming up, still to come on the schedule? Coming up is Florida, which isn't as daunting. But they cannot stop Arizona State nor Toledo. And they have these teams left on their schedule: Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, Missouri, and Ole Miss. That is going to be a miserable existence for the next 3 months for Mississippi State. Miserable.
Yeah, that's that is pretty tough. And I will say this: Toledo, they're a good team. They're always one of the better teams in the MAC. Not to say that there's any excuse for them losing, for them beating Mississippi State by more than 2 scores. But at the same time, Toledo's a good team. But man, Mississippi State, that's not a great look. And I know this is the first year for
Jeff Levy,
but that's not one you can easily come back from.
Giving up 41 to Toledo is brutal. And I mean, I would say the best offenses in the SEC, Tennessee, Texas, Ole Miss are probably the top 3 that I would take. Now, they don't play Bama, who's probably in the discussion, but Georgia's a steamroller. And then Missouri's got a veteran quarterback and 2 really good wide receivers. That's probably 5 of the top 7 offenses in the SEC.
I mean, that they're playing 5 top 10 teams for in the rest of the season, and Texas A&M is ranked as well, and that's going to be.
And
at
Arkansas
home,
looks like they got an offense.
They're not
at least.
terrible.
I don't think they're good, but Taylor Green's going for a ton of yards.
Yeah,
can't stop Toledo or Arizona State.
There's a reasonable case for them to maybe only win 3 games this year.
It's a very there's a reasonable case that they only win 2 games. This year.
Yeah.
I mean, they beat Eastern Kentucky and they'll probably beat UMass. But I'm not going to pick them to win another game.
No, I wouldn't.
And the dynamics in that state are such that it's going to be very difficult for Jeff Levy to recruit right now. And to win at Mississippi State, you have to win those guys in the state of Mississippi. You've got to get them. You know that LSU's coming. You know that Bama's coming, and then obviously Ole Miss is there as well. But like your state is going to get recruited very heavily. And right now, I can't imagine folks in the state of Mississippi are going to choose to go play at Mississippi State instead of Ole Miss the way that thing's rolling. Now, if Gainesville picks up the phone and calls and Lane Kiffin's in blue and orange instead of red and blue, then we got a different discussion on our hands. But right now, Ole Miss is riding high, and you are about to go 2-10.
Yeah.
And get absolutely dusted most Saturdays.
Those last 3 games, they may give up 200 points.
And it's so important for first-year players, for first-year coaches, to be able to recruit and to get guys on your campus. I mean, what is the environment going to be like when Arkansas and Missouri come in there? And then what if they get destroyed? At least what they got going for them is Texas, Georgia, and Tennessee. And oh my God, they're all on the road.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that when I knew. They are at Texas, at Georgia, at Tennessee, and at Ole Miss.
That's
I missed
brutal.
that. Oh my God. They're going to give up 60 multiple times.
The SEC did not do them any favors. That is just horrendous.
How do you recruit if that's the result? I mean, I realize that oftentimes we talk about that kids don't really care that much about the results of the game when they come. But, like, what's the environment going to be like when Missouri comes in there on the 23rd of November? Who's going to the game when they play UMass?
Yeah.
November the 2nd? I'm assuming hunting season's in by that point. I'm not an expert on that, but I think the Mississippi State fans are in general. They're not going to be anybody in the stadium for that.
There's no way, even if they just win 2 games, there's no way Levy's
No,
gone.
I think they realized that the
year,
program the program bottomed out. I mean, they had a horrible tragedy, and then they made a hire that made some sense but was the wrong thing to do, and the program bottomed out. All the while, Ole Miss is just rolling. And they got their NIL situation together, and they're putting everything together.
I think the Ole Miss success too also is a very big factor in how the higher ups at Mississippi State view what's happening. They see Ole Miss succeeding so much, it
makes it worse.
It makes it worse,
and that's something that you have to point out with Florida as well, because Florida State got it rolling, and Miami has figured some things out, and Georgia, who's their other chief rival, is on top of the world, and it just makes things tough in Gainesville, but didn't handle it very well. Mississippi State's in for a long 3 months. All right, come back and talk a little more LSU football. The Tigers got to win over the weekend. Still got to chat with Denton Day coming up in 15 minutes. You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio, video, security solutions, avssla.com is the website. I always talk about their audio capabilities and surround sound and what they can do. Talk to you about your home entertainment system and what they can do video perspective. And, of course, security as well is a huge deal over there. But what about Wi-Fi? Do you live in a place where there's just your square footage is such that it's hard to get a connection over here at this room, or hard to stream something on this television because not close enough, your connection's not that great, or you'd like to be scrolling through your phone, your smart device somewhere, and you can't quite do it because the internet's not great? Have you thought about getting mesh Wi-Fi installed? You can boost the signal all over your home to make sure that your streaming capabilities and your internet connection is stronger. They do that kind of stuff at Audio Video Security Solutions all the time. They can handle your mesh Wi-Fi and make sure that you've got all the internet you could possibly need at your home or your place of work. They do commercial jobs as well. Mitchell Fisher and his team are fantastic on the installation front. Their customer service is exceptional. And I love the fact that I can tell you every single day what Mitchell Fisher's cell phone number is if you want the services of Audio Video Security Solutions. It's 225-439-7920. Mitchell cares that much. He's the owner of the company, but he wants to be the first point of contact for you. And he will be if you call him at 225-439-7920. It's Audio Video Security Solutions. Check him out online, avssla.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Parish Construction and Roofing.
You can't win a championship without playing defense. Go to parishbuilt.com and sign up for the priority emergency list and man up on this storm.
Parishbuilt.com.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
All right, to chat with Denton Day coming up here in 10 minutes about the weekend that was across the country in college football. I briefly touched on this about an hour ago before we talked with John Talty. We were trying to connect with him, and so I went to a segment that was a little later in the show until we were able to get with him. We had a great chat a little bit earlier, but I wanted to finish this thought, so I'll rehash a little bit of what I said for a second time, but I wanted to complete kind of the thought here. I did really appreciate that Brian Kelly decided to defer and took the football in the second half of the game. I thought that was good. I think that's something he should do every week, like most other teams do, because I just want the ball coming out of half, and that obviously helped LSU in the game on Saturday. There were a couple of decisions that I didn't love. LSU faced a 4th and goal from inside the 1 with 10 minutes and 30 seconds to go in the third quarter, and they decided to go for it like we've seen in the past. And it is very evident to me that LSU's weakest link, especially offensively, is the tight zone run game. They're not good at it. They don't consistently get push. They don't consistently win. And what you're doing when you elect to continue to go for these 4th downs is you're putting the worst aspect of your offense on center stage. You're not good at turning around, handing the ball off, and getting 2 yards. And if you're listening to this and you're going, well, they ought to be good at that. I don't disagree with that at all. But they're not. So when you have an opportunity to get some points against USC on the opening drive, in this situation against South Carolina, take some points. I really, really believe that. And LSU didn't do it, and of course they didn't convert. The other issue I had with some decision-making was the decision that LSU made to go for 2. And you were down 8, and you scored a touchdown. It was Caden Durham's second impressive touchdown game of the Texan. Wow, that just choked me all up. Second impressive touchdown run of the game. But you had 6 minutes and 47 seconds to play in the third quarter. Why are you going for 2 there? Your odds are not good because you don't run the ball well from there. And ended up, they tried to go for 2, and they didn't run the ball. They elected to pass. They didn't do a great job of pass blocking, and Nussmeier got sacked. But just take the points. Like, if you're going to try to tie the game with 4 minutes to go, okay. You had 21 and a half minutes to go. I do not like going for 2 there, and I got tweeted at that's the analytical right thing to do, and I just don't agree because there's no way you can convince me that you know whether or not you're going to have to go for 2. You don't know that. All I know is that you're now down by 2 points. Going down 1 is not the worst thing in the world. They score a touchdown and kick the extra point. You're only down 8. You're still 1 possession away. They go ahead and score a touchdown. I mean, they kick a field goal. They're up 4. You score a touchdown and kick the extra point. You're up. You don't know what the score is going to be. I don't go for 2 until the fourth quarter, unless you're down, 24 and you need 3 touchdowns and 3 2-point conversions. Then we can start talking about that. But in a game that's 8 and you score a touchdown with 6 minutes and 47 seconds to go in the third quarter, I'm not going for 2 there. And LSU elected to do it, and they were unsuccessful. So I thought there was some good there. There was some not so good there. I can see the defense for all the things that Brian Kelly does, which is generally my ask. I can disagree with some things from time to time, and I do here. I feel like you need to play to the strengths of your team. And the strength of your team is not going ahead and making your defense come out there to start the second half. The strength of your team is not getting a push and making sure you get 4th and goal from the 1 or 2. That's not where you're strongest. Now, credit to LSU. When they had to run the football at the end of the game to get the touchdown that ultimately gave them the difference, they got it done. Campbell kicked out, and you got a double team and a steal from Dellinger and Chester, and Williams got in. But you hadn't been very good at that, and it was evident that the first 3 play calls, 2 of them were passes from down inside what they call the blue zone, which is inside the 5-yard line. They were throwing it a little bit. They threw it on the 4th and 1 and couldn't pass protect. Play to your strengths. Your power running game is not your strength. Stop putting that on center stage, and take the points. Just take the points. Beck, did you have a thought on LSU's decision to go for those?
I didn't hate it. I think I didn't dislike it as much as you did. I understand the point situation there, why you want to go for 2, but and I guess maybe if you feel confident in the play call, but obviously the execution wasn't there, so that's tough. But I'm not as opposed to it as you were, but obviously it's one of those things where if you get it, then
hindsight's always 20/20.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I don't hate the decision.
But LSU's inability to get a push and do that is not hindsight. That is a weakness of the team.
I was watching the game and I never tweet. I don't remember the last time I tweeted, but man, when I saw them line up in the wing tee, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, we're lining up in the wing tee.
Got Gabe Relaford lead blocking.
And all jokes aside, if it works, it works. But man, it didn't work.
It didn't work.
They tried it multiple times and it didn't work.
I was listening to Hanny and Richard Dixon on Eagle 8.1 Game Day's post-game show, and somebody called in and asked, what they thought about it, and Richard Dixon goes, "It didn't work. I hated it."
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, well, okay. He tried to put Gabe Relaford, a defensive player, back there, and that didn't work either. Nobody can block, it appears. So if you want to look at LSU's Pro Football Focus grades, top 5 and bottom 5 from the game on Saturday, always have a piece up on Sundays at LouisianaSports.net. That is up there right now. You can go check that out for free. There were some interesting names that popped up there on the pros and the cons, so you can go check that out at LouisianaSports.net. We'll chat with Denton Day coming up next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Hope everybody did okay with Francine blowing through. Now you understand kind of the dread and the doom as it approaches, thinking, man, am I going to lose power? Am I going to lose power? And a lot of folks did lose power, over 60% in some of the neighboring parishes to East Baton Rouge. Well, you wouldn't lose power if you had a Generac home standby generator from the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical. Neil and Melissa have been running it for 40 years. Happy to help you with that. It's a first-class process. They're a first-class organization. They're going to have a full-time employee that's going to come out and do the installation for you. It's not going to be somebody like 1099 to come out there and get the job done. They're going to do it. Most of the installation is underground, and every single generator that you buy from the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical comes with a 7 to 10-year warranty. The peace of mind is just priceless of knowing, hey, you're not going to lose power. Boudreaux's Electrical can help you with that. Make the call. Same number they had for 40 years, 985-397-1562. Or in the 225, they got the new Gonzales location, 393-89. Or make it easy on yourself and just go to the website, boudreauxelectrical.com. boudreauxelectrical.com.
There it is, the extra mile. on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
All right, back in action here. Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com, GCOPnet.com. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, they got you covered at Gulf Coast Office Products. Wherever you are in the state of Louisiana, they've got a location nearest you, and they can help you with whatever it is that you need, whether you're in banking, healthcare, education, like us, a media company. They got you covered, printing, scanning, copying, Gulf Coast Office Products. All right, Denton Dace, college sports, Sirius XM, college football overtime every single Saturday, and joins us every single Monday here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Denton, how are we doing?
Hunt, what's up, man? How are you?
Doing quite well. Jaden Daniels into the win column yesterday. How does it feel?
It felt good. Would have loved to see them get in the end zone yesterday. The last 7 field goals is good enough to get the win. He looked good in the second half, though. I was proud of him.
That's good to hear. All the returns kind of positive. There are some people that are chirping negatively in Chicago after a couple of bumpy outings from Caleb Williams. How are people feeling about Jaden in the capital city?
Yeah, all positive. He hasn't been perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but he's keeping the ball safe. No turnovers through 2 games. You got your first win. It's like the first time in forever that Daniel Jones lost to this franchise here, which is stunning. But he finally broke that curse. So all good so far.
All right, let's talk some college football. Week number 3 is in the books. I was going to say what was the biggest storyline for you, but I'll go ahead and start. What did you take from Georgia and Kentucky? Georgia gets out of there with a 1-point win?
This was kind of validation that Carson Beck, while a fine quarterback, was overhyped coming into this season. People said he was the best quarterback. He was a Heisman favorite. He was for sure going to be the first quarterback taken in the NFL draft. And you saw the performance this weekend. Georgia's certainly the more talented team. They have far better players, and the offense struggled against a Kentucky defense that had given up 31 points the week prior to South Carolina. So I think Georgia's a lot more human than people anticipated. I still think Carson Beck has upside, but I think expectations for him need to be readjusted a little bit. It was unfair to think that he was just going to be like this great quarterback all of a sudden after 1 year. He was good last year, but he wasn't great. So it feels almost validating that I was not crazy in thinking that some of the hype for Carson Beck was too much.
Jalen Milroe had a pretty good day. 5 touchdowns accounted for up in Camp Randall. 42-10 was the final. Is Jalen Milroe a great quarterback?
He's a good quarterback. I'll say he's a good quarterback. This was definitely his best game of the Kalen DeBoer era, factoring in the competition, who they're playing, where they're playing. It would have been nice if Tyler Van Dyke was able to play the entirety of this game. I don't think it would have mattered much on the scoreboard necessarily in terms of wins and losses, but it might have affected the way that the game flowed, and you might have been able to see a little bit more from Jalen Milroe. But you kind of know what you're getting with him. If you're expecting him to be a pocket passer, you're not going to get a great guy. But if you're expecting him to move the pocket with his legs, make plays with his legs, and have a pretty good deep ball, like he's a guy that you're going to like this year. So I think he's a good quarterback. Not great. I think what I've realized over the first 3 weeks, Hunt, is that there's not a lot of great quarterbacks in college football this year. If I would have asked you last year how many great quarterbacks are there, we probably could have gone 8, 9, maybe. I mean, we might throw Sam Hartman in there, go 10 deep, right? But that's just not the case this year. There's a few that are really, really good and trustworthy, and then there's other people that maybe by week 6, 7, or 8 they'll be there, but they're not there yet.
Who's better, Ole Miss or Tennessee?
I like Tennessee better. I like Tennessee better. I think Ole Miss is good, but I think Tennessee's offense has a little bit more versatility, and I trust them more on defense.
How good is Tennessee then?
This is crazy. I think they're really good. I think they're really, really good. I don't necessarily think that that NC State is particularly great, but I was stunned at the way that they beat them down. And I think we'll have a much better answer for this time next week. The game of the week next week is going to be Tennessee and Oklahoma. I really like Oklahoma's defense. As far as what their quarterback in Oklahoma, I think Jackson Arnold's fine. Again, not a lot of great quarterbacks, but that's going to be the true test. If they do what they've done to everybody else to Oklahoma, then we're looking at the potential of they might be the one that challenges and maybe beats Georgia in the SEC.
How do you think that game goes in Norman?
I think Tennessee's going to win pretty handily. I do. I think Tennessee's going to win pretty handily. I think it won't be quite the magnitude that they beat a team like NC State, but I do think when all is said and done, you're looking at least a double-digit win for Nico I and the Vols.
All right, let's talk Florida and Texas A&M, specifically Florida. I think everybody believes that we just saw the end of the Napier era. Depending on when that is, well, who knows? But I think you've realized that this thing is done. How surprising is it that Billy Napier is going to be out of there after 2.5 years?
If you would have asked me this 2-3 years ago when he got hired, I would have never believed it. I really thought he had something going well with Louisiana, and then he was going to bring that over to Florida. I don't know what went wrong. I would have personally not started Graham Mertz this weekend. Not that it would have made a huge difference. You think you got to go with Lagway. I don't know what his commitment is to Graham Mertz. Even thinking that Graham Mertz was going to be a guy to take their program to the next level is questionable at best. So I don't know what exactly went wrong here, but this whole shebang has been very, very stunning. I mean, you guys know as well as anybody in the country, it wasn't that long ago that Florida was at the top of college football, and they are getting dangerously close to being the butt of all of the jokes, especially now that Vanderbilt's kind of good this year. Like Florida is becoming the team that's being the butt of all the jokes in college football. It's very, very weird. So I don't know what went wrong with Billy Napier, but if they're going to let him go, which they will, the person that's coming in better do a better job. You can't have back-to-back situations like this if you're the University of Florida.
Do you have a name or two? I mean, everybody starts with Lane Kiffin. I think that's a little bit interesting because I think Ole Miss is probably going to be in the playoff, and that just means he's going to be coaching a game in late December after the signing class is supposed to be signed. So, that would be a weird timing deal for Florida. Do you have a name or two that might be on the short list for the Gators?
I mean, the name that I always have cycled back to, I'm not going to say Deion, by the way. I'm sure that there's some crazy fan on a blog post that says, we should go get Deion. No, you should not go get Deion. I would keep my eye on Lance Leipold. I've always felt like this year was going to be the year where a bigger program lets somebody go and then takes a swing on him. I think he's done a really good job taking Kansas from kind of the position that Florida is transitioning to now, which is being the butt of college football and then making them relevant. So imagine what he can do when he has actual resources at the availability of them, right? Because it's not like we know Kansas is a basketball school. Obviously, football drives this whole thing, but Kansas is a basketball school. If they want to go and if they really want to get down to like the actual just go get a good coach, I'm going for Lance Leipold, assuming that Lane says no, which I can't imagine that Lane would leave Ole Miss for Florida. I mean, at that point, like, what really is the difference in Ole Miss and Florida if you're getting to the college football playoffs now? Unless it's just a substantial amount of money, I can't imagine that he would leave. So I'd go for a guy like Lance Leipold. I think he does a phenomenal job.
I couldn't have imagined 6 years ago someone suggesting to me that Ole Miss's coach would not leave for Florida. I could not have imagined that 6 years ago. But it's a different world now. Ole Miss's NIL program's in really, really good shape. They're beating the brakes off people. He's got a lot of stability, and Florida looks to be kind of a mess. So maybe that is actually the case. Michigan's going to make a quarterback change this week. Got a big one with Southern Cal coming up. That game is in Ann Arbor, and USC's a 5.5-point favorite. How do you kind of handicap that one with a new guy under center for Michigan?
I don't know if it makes that much of a difference, because if this guy was really that good, remember, like the thing with Alex Orji is that we thought he was going to be quarterback one at the beginning of this year, and then he seemingly didn't do enough to win the job from Davis Warren, and now they're going to tell us that he's the best option. So I have a lot of questions. I think USC is going to go in there and have a pretty significant win, especially, like, I was not high on USC this offseason, but in the first couple of displays of this new Lincoln Riley post-Caleb Williams era in the Big Ten, they've looked pretty good. This is obviously a substantially different test going up against a Michigan defense, but I don't know that Orji makes all that much of a difference in Michigan. I think they don't have a quarterback, and you got to have a quarterback if you want to be good in a power league, specifically the Big Ten of the SEC, and that they have two options and somehow no quarterback.
Winner of the Big 12 is going to be in the playoffs with a bye. Utah and Oklahoma State will play in Stillwater coming up this weekend. Utah is a 1.5 favorite. How do you like that one?
God, I can't wait for this one. I mean, obviously, Tennessee and Oklahoma is going to be like the premier primetime matchup, but this, to me, is the one that I'm the most excited about. Now, a lot of that is relying on the hope that Cam Rising is going to play. Mini Zach Wilson was fun this weekend, his younger brother, but I want to see Cam Rising in this game. Oklahoma State's offense has been a lot of fun. I really loved the way they responded this week after getting pushed 2 weeks ago by Arkansas, and Alan Bowman comes out and throws the ball all over the yard, 5 touchdowns. They're a fun team to watch. I'm excited. This is I think the first like really, really big game that it feels like has real weight and expectations, and we're getting it in September. I mean, sign me up for this. If this is one of the benefits of conference realignment, I'm all for it.
Denton, we appreciate some time, man. Have a great week.
I appreciate it, man. Be well.
Denton Day, Sirius XM college football overtime every single Saturday after the games go final. We appreciate him with us every single Monday, kind of talking about some things outside of the SEC bubble. We appreciate a bunch of his time today. All right, let's go back and close it out. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Jonathan Carbo and his team, happy to help you if you're a business owner with your commercial insurance. It can be overwhelming at times. I've spent 7 years in insurance. You all know that. Those policies are long. They're detailed. One single sentence can change everything in those policies. And if you don't feel like you've got a great handle on what your commercial insurance says, you need to have a second set of eyes put on that for sure. Don't just look at the bottom line. What does that cost? Okay, give me that. You need to know. And Jonathan Carbo and his team truly believe that. They believe that your insurance broker should be a part of your team, a trusted voice for you, like your attorney is, like your CPA would be, and they're that at the Highland Insurance Group. So if you're a business owner, and now that the hurricane has moved on, it's a situation where you'd like to look at your policies and see what your property and casualty look like, what's your cyber insurance look like, what's your EPL look like. If you don't know what any of that is, call the Highland Insurance Group and make sure that you've got that all under control. Jonathan Carbo and his team right here in Baton Rouge, and they would love to talk to you. They're online at highlandig.com. It's the Highland Insurance Group, highlandig.com.
Parish Construction and Roofing.
This is Coach Kim Mulkey. Go to parishbuilt.com for all of your roofing needs.
From your hometown, parishbuilt.com.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Wrapping things up here on a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Gulf Coast Office Products. Baton Rouge Business Report, #1 office products supplier, Gulf Coast Office Products. Shout out to our guy Trey Beal and the whole team over there. See them online at gcopnet.com, gcopnet.com. We didn't talk much about the NFL schedule that was. I was listening to Jimmy and Charlie's show earlier today back, and it was a lot of folks like to put a little sprinkle on a money line parlay with like the heaviest favorites of the week. That thing got blown up yesterday because Dallas lost at home. You had San Francisco losing to Minnesota. You had heavy favorites that were taking it on the chin in the games yesterday, and it's been a little bit of a surprising first 2 weeks in the NFL, which I don't generally think of it that way. At least but it's been pretty surprising.
Yeah, pretty crazy stuff, man. Obviously, the Bengals and the Ravens both 0-2. And the all the teams except for the Texans in the AFC South are 0-2. The Colts, Jaguars, and Titans. Now, we didn't expect too much from all those teams. However, you would have thought the Jaguars and the Colts, with Anthony Richardson, maybe take a step forward. A lot of people thought Anthony Richardson would be a lot better this year. He's had some explosive plays, but he threw 3 picks in the game on Sunday. So yeah, I mean it's been an interesting season so far. Of course, also probably the biggest surprise, maybe besides the Ravens being 0-2, is of course the Saints being 2-0 and scoring 91 points. So it's been interesting stuff.
Did you catch Bo Nix's answer to one of the press conference questions?
No. So
they were terrible yesterday. They were 0-2. They scored 6 points on Pittsburgh at home. Nix threw a pair of picks, and he was asked, I'm paraphrasing, but this was basically how the question was phrased to him. Can you take us through that end zone interception? I didn't even see the interception, but I saw this clip on Twitter, and Nix responded with, got the snap and threw it to the other team.
Yeah.
And that was his entire answer. So shout out Bo Nix.
I saw a clip on Twitter of that game, and they showed Bo Nix going into the huddle with his teammates and waiting for the call, and he's like waiting, and he finally starts saying the call, and he's like talking for 15 seconds about saying what the call is, and people are all in the chat just saying that Sean Payton just has these insanely long and illustrious calls for plays, and they ended up having to call a timeout because they had like 4 seconds left after they broke the huddle.
That's not
maybe not the best thing to have 30-word play calls when you have a rookie quarterback.
I would have no chance. Like, I'm one of those people that,
I
like,
can't
if you
remember
tell
that
me
stuff.
a phone
No
number,
way.
I can't remember it. I can't do the short-term memorization thing. I'm
No.
pretty good at reading comprehension stuff, but you give me some numbers, like an amount or something. I can have no chance.
No way.
I would have no chance on remembering those play calls. None. We'd be in the wrong play every time out. That would be quite an issue. All right, let's play Take or Leave It.
All right, first one here. The Bengals lost at the gun yesterday. They're in trouble at 0-2. Take it or leave it, Bengals fan Hunt.
I'll take it. They're in a little trouble. Like, you can't dig yourself this hole every single year.
Yeah.
Now, if you were listening to the show back on Friday, in Burrow's 5 years, they have now played obviously 10 games in weeks 1 and 2. They are 1-9. 1-9 in weeks 1 and 2 in the Burrow era. Like, I get it when he's not practicing or not in camp because he got hurt or whatever, but like they needed to win one. You can't lose at home to New England. That's terrible. And then they were one snap away from winning yesterday, and the Chiefs get the pass interference call, which was pass interference, but it's 4th and 16. You need one stop, and you get a pass interference flag, and you lose the game. Just a brutal start for the Bengals.
Next one here. We talked about a little bit. The Panthers, obviously 2-0. They just benched. I don't know why I almost read this, but I realized for some reason I put that. They benched, obviously, Bryce Young, and Andy Dalton will be taking his place. And the Saints are 2-0 with 91 points scored. Clint Kubiak will be the next head coach of the Panthers. Take it or leave it.
I think you got to take it. I mean, that's right on schedule. They usually get into the
fire
market
coach
right
after
there.
1 year.
Usually get into the market sometime late December.
Yep.
Make that hire in late January, and I think that makes a lot of sense. The Panthers, 5 coaches in 5 years. Let's go.
All right, last one here. Giant center fielder Heliod Ramos became the first right-handed batter to hit a home run into McCovey Cove yesterday in a 4-3 loss to the Padres. A righty going yard to the Cove at AT&T Park. I know it's not called that anymore, but take it or leave it.
Oracle Park, I believe we're working with now. Yeah, I'll take it. That's a poke, and that's incredible that in 20 years of that stadium, that's the first right-handed hitter to hit one into McCovey Cove. That's quite an honor. That's quite a poke to get it all the way out there into the water. I've lost a little interest in Major League Baseball back.
Well,
the Cubbies
fair
are
enough.
toast, and my fantasy team lost in the first round of the playoffs yesterday. I went in. I was feeling good yesterday. I was down like 11 points, and I had 2 starting pitchers going, and he didn't have any pitchers available, and I just got destroyed.
Yeah, not the best look when you have a 3-game series with the Rockies and you lose 2 of 3.
Lose 2 of 3.
They're not very good.
They're atrocious.
Yeah, they're pretty bad.
But Kyle Hendricks pitched good yesterday.
He did. The professor still at it.
It's tough. Like the Cubs, I really thought they were going to be a playoff team this year, and now 5 games back with 2 weeks to go.
I think a lot of people thought they were.
Not going to happen. Mets and Braves are kind of dueling it out. Cubs are a non-factor. Right, that was a lot for 2 hours here on this Monday. That's the way we like Mondays to go. It's a victory Monday for the Saints and LSU. I opened the show today just like putting my hand up and being like, I apologize. I failed you all in training camp coverage of the New Orleans Saints. Not that I went to any of the training camp practices because they were a lot of miles away. But, like, I just did not see this coming, and I don't know how anyone could have seen this coming. The Saints, I believe, are for real right now. and are a team that is going to be a contender in the NFC, and I just cannot believe that and would never have said that eight days ago. And they have cashed in big time over the last 2 weeks. So it should be a fun year in Black and Gold Land, and I talked about it at the top of the show. You can find that segment on YouTube at Hunt on Saints. That's our Saints channel. You can catch all our coverage there of Saints football. Talk to LSU South Carolina at 1:15. There are a couple different directions you can go with what LSU has done through the first 3 weeks, and I chose to favor the positive side of things, going down 17-0 and coming back to get a tough road win. But there's another angle to that, and I talked about that at 1:15 as well. You can find that at Hunt on LSU on YouTube. Had an interesting conversation with John Talty at 1:30. John writes for CBSSports.com. He talked about there being a disconnect between Brian Kelly and his players at LSU, the message not resonating the same way it did in South Bend, and I wanted him to come on and kind of talk about that because he said multiple industry sources with familiarity with LSU have said that. If you want to hear what John had to say, you can find that in our 1:30 segment on today's show. And finished hour number 1 with some LSU. SEC against the spread picks. I went 6-6 over the weekend. What does that put us at for the year back? I'm looking at things. We are.
I closed it out, but I think you were 9-8 before.
Yeah, 19-20 for the year. So we are 1 game under 500. Got to put in some work, and I feel like there are not going to be as many 52-point spreads moving forward. Maybe we can have a little bit more success than what we've had thus far. Then I chat with Den Day as well. So if you missed any bit, go catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. That's it for us. Matt's going to drive you home next on After Further Review. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. It's been a Monday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show, presented
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouthwatering